very best to get this job that I so crave.
Welcome back to the Fanzone debate tournament. We're here for another exciting match in round one of the tournament. We got the number 13 seed, Tyler Burch, going up against the number 4 seed, Rue Moses. Tyler debuted in the second half of last season. He went up against people like Alex Martinez, won that match, and then Brandon Cohen, who went on to play in the contender match. He lost to Brandon, but good starting out 1-1. Rue, on the other hand, Rue's had a very good Fanzone debate career. He's played former champions like Jacoby and won. He's gone up against Kirk. I believe that was the last time we saw Rue, I think was when he played Kirk in the title match. So very, very good career as well, which is what got him that number 4 seed spot. So it's kind of the old versus the new when it comes to debate, but both of these guys, when it comes to trivia, they know their shit. Can that go into debate? We'll see. I'm pumped. Mark, you're here to judge this one after you did such a great job judging other matches that we did. I'm like, great, another person I can rope into doing things for me. How are you? And what do you think of the matchup?
It should be good. I'm delighted to be here again. I guess I haven't messed up totally to where I guess you'll just not contact me if I do. So.
That's fair. That's pretty much how we do it here. And then we got Brian over there. Brian, you're at all these pretty much. You missed a couple, and you're at most of these. We haven't seen Rue in a while. Thoughts on him coming back and then going up against Tyler?
Yeah, I think I've gotten to see both these guys debate. Rue obviously has had like a great debate career so far. His match with Kirk was a great title match. I remember that one. But Tyler's no slouch himself. Like you said, he started out pretty strong. He lost one, but it's very early in his debate career. So this could be fun.
Yeah. Let's get into it. We're going to start by talking to the lower seeded player. We're going to start by talking to Tyler. Tyler, welcome back. You had a couple matches at the end of last season. I believe one of them was like wildly painful for me because Alex said a lot of really stupid shit. But nonetheless, it was a win. And you went up against Brandon. Now you're here to play Rue. How are you feeling coming into this 1-1?
I'm feeling good. Debate's always been something that's kind of just, just trying it out, just kind of seeing what the flow is, coming up with different unique answers. So it could go either way. So I'm excited to be able to go against somebody. This is actually the first time I'm going against Rue in anything. Weird that it's in debate. So I'm really excited about this and just see how it goes. And, never know what could happen.
Absolutely. So I'll bring in Rue. Rue, welcome back to Fanzone Debate. It's been a while since we've seen you at that aforementioned title match, but you're here. You're going up against Tyler. How are you feeling after the big break?
I'm excited to be back. Y'all know this is the one area I like to talk shit in. I love debate. This is what I do, but I'm always nervous every time beforehand. Tyler is an extremely intelligent dude. I'm getting ready to be throwing things that I didn't expect, but I'm ready for it, and I'm really happy to be back. Really excited to finally play my man in something, because first time I'm playing him, so I'm excited.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, let's get into it. This is how the show is going to work. So the players drafted categories. Then we gave them some questions based on said categories. They gave me some answers, and now they're going to debate the questions tonight before our very souls. So they're each going to get a 1-minute opening, followed by a 5-minute free form, followed by a 1-minute closing at the end of the debate. Brian, Mark, and I will write on our handy-dandy boards who we thought won the question. 3 votes wins you a point. Or 2 votes wins you a point. I'm sorry. 2 out of 3 votes wins you a point. And the first person to 3 wins the match. So are there any questions before we get into the first question, guys?
Nope. Tyler, good luck.
You too, man.
All right, let's do this. All right, we're going to kick this thing off in the category of comedy. This was drafted by Rue. The question is, what is the best scene in a Chris Tucker comedy Rue, you get to kick this one off because you drafted it. You're going to get 1 minute to open your argument. I am going to come in to give you a 10-second warning when the time comes. So 1 minute when you start talking.
The best scene in a Chris Tucker comedy has to be the end scene in Friday with Craig versus Debo because it has so much going for it. It first off confirms Debo's menace when Debbie confronts him for him beating up on Felicia and her saying, look, I'm not like these other punk men here. I will fight you. So Debo hits Debbie and Craig steps in to defend her. So Debo pulls a knife, Craig pulls a gun, and then you hear a shot and you're like, oh shit, did he actually shoot him? But it actually is just a flashback leading to the most impactful conversation that you have in the film between Pops and Craig, where he goes, you win some, you lose some, but you live to fight another day. That gives Craig depth, that gives Craig arc. So he puts down the gun, and then we get a fight that's so realistic, so guttural, so raw, because Debo beats his ass. You feel every hit. You feel when he's choked out, but more importantly, you feel when he gets back up, rallying around him just like the neighborhood. So when he finally picks up the brick, hits him, knocks him out, you feel the jubilation, you feel the satisfaction, and it's capped off by Chris Tucker's most quotable line, you got knocked the fuck out, man. It's brilliant.
All right, we're going to bring in Tyler. Tyler, you have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
For me, when I think about Chris Tucker, I always think about, his most quotable lines, his physical comedy, the people that he's with, things like that. And so for me, I really just, the best scene in Chris Tucker comedy I had to choose was the in Rush Hour 3, the dojo scene. It's such a great showing for Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan as a pairing. The physical comedy that they have trying to fight, the large man that they have to fight at the dojo, them having to try and knock him down, trying to use, martial arts, nothing's working. Obviously, Chris Tucker's throwing out some of his best lines out there. They're trying. It's a ridiculous scene. Everything about it is just ridiculous. The fight obviously doesn't go their way because of the fact that it's this very huge man. They have no way of stopping him. And then that leads into, and then the scene caps off with them trying to have a conversation. Chris Tucker trying to have a conversation with the master. And he keeps saying you, and he's like, oh, I'm you. And he's like, oh, you is deaf. And he's like, no, you is blind, which is
time. All right. So 5 minute free form when one of you starts talking. I will throw up the 1 minute warning there when the time comes. And then if I feel like someone's going on too long, stealing the spotlight a little bit, I'll throw up the let's move on. And then if you still don't shut up, then I'll come in and hit you with a stick. So there is the question again. Gentlemen, 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
Tyler, no offense to you, but I'm really tired of arguing against this dumbass scene with people who don't know what Chris Tucker comedy actually is. Chris Tucker's comedy is quick-witted. It has great delivery. It has cultural intelligence to his verbal version of slapstick comedy, and it's quotable. And that's what my scene is with Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker, in 3 lines, is funnier than 3 minutes of Chris Tucker in your scene, because all he is the desperate version of him trying to reach back to what he was past in his career and what other acts used to do so much better. There's no wonder why he didn't get another comedy after Rush Hour 3, because he is not good in it. This scene is nothing more than reaching for the easiest version of comedy you can find and not delivering at all.
I mean, I think the reason why the scene is as good as it is because of the fact that it's Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan working together. Their buddy cop thing is what kept that Rush Hour trilogy going through. And them working together, it's them trying to stop the big man. And then obviously, like you do have that slapstick comedy, which I think is Chris Tucker, like a lot of people really know him for, and that's what kind of gravitates towards him. And so like things like the giant shoe, like that's the kind of comedy like a lot of people go to Chris Tucker for. I hear a lot of people talk about, I always hear them talk a lot about Friday, but I always hear them talk about more of like the comedic moments, not so much the moments of like this ending with the fight, where this emotional fight. I don't really hear them talk about that part of Friday. I always hear them talking about, them sitting in the yard saying, damn, and, other parts of it. It's not so much the emotion. It's always been the comedy about Friday. And the scene they're talking about doesn't totally have that much comedy except for a little blip at the end.
And that's what makes this scene so much better, because it's so much more than the comedy. You actually watch the entire scene. It has it has the comedy that you want from Chris Tucker with his most quotable line, but it has everything else on top of that. It actually utilizes his character with Debbie and Pops, whereas your scene, maybe they fight a little bit against the giant man, but that fight with the kids and the man is just a cheap imitation of the Chinese food restaurant in Rush Hour 2 and the massage parlor in 1 and the massage parlor in 2. It lives nowhere near to what they actually used to be able to do. Whereas my scene, it has the action, it has the drama, it has the impact, it has everything, and it still has the comedic moments because it's not about what's the most seen, almost talk about what's actually the best. And this is the one that actually digs deeper than what you expect in a Chris Tucker comedy while still having that comedy. Yours doesn't do more than try to do what Chris Tucker did in the past and what other acts did in the past, and it doesn't work.
I mean, agree or disagree. I think that if you look at a lot of lists about some of Chris Tucker's favorite or best moments, this is going to be a big scene that you see. It's not going to be so much some other stuff from Rush Hour 2, Rush Hour 1. This scene is going to be really prevalent. I mean, with Friday, like, I mean, it's, for me, when I think about best scene, I always think about something that I could show somebody and it would get them hooked on somebody. Yours, I mean, it takes place in a Chris Tucker comedy, but it's mostly about Ice Cube and his journey. It's not so much about what Chris Tucker does. This, I think if I showed people the scene from Rush Hour 3, they would immediately be like, oh, I want to learn more about this Chris Tucker guy. I want to see these movies. I want to see what he's about. I want to see his comedy. I think that's, they may know a little bit about him, but I think once they see that scene and they see the comedy behind it, the physicality, that relationship between Jackie Chan and the way that they play off of each other, I think that they would be a lot more tuned into Chris Tucker.
We're not arguing best Chris Tucker scene here. We're arguing the best scene in a Chris Tucker comedy. The best Chris Tucker comedy is Friday, and the best scene is that movie because that movie is about a neighborhood. It's about a neighborhood in South Central LA that through all the crappy stuff they deal with day after day after day after day, this villain terrorizing their neighborhood, they at the end of the day do nothing but laugh about it to try to get through it. And that's the perfect encapsulation of this movie where Craig goes through the hardships, remembers the impactful conversation, gets his ass beat, gets right back up, and then knocks him out. You're happy, and then you cap it off with his most quotable line. That's when you see it. People ask, where's that line from? That one. That scene that shows you should watch the movie and then watch everything else Chris Tucker is in. Your scene, when you're arguing about they go to that scene, the best scene in a crappy movie is worse than the worst scenes in all of his better movies that came up years and years before that. Again, he's never done any comedies after this because he is a shell of himself.
I mean, I think that with Rush Hour 3, we get to see them fully encapsulate the trilogy. I mean, I think that you say that there's this payoff with Friday about their journey. I think that in the scene that I have in Rush Hour 3, it's you get to really. I'm just gonna save it for the closing.
Okay. Time. So, Tyler, you get to close first. You get 1 minute when you are ready to start talking.
When you look up some of Chris Tucker's best scenes, you're always going to see the Rush Hour 3 dojo scene. Like I've been saying, the physical comedy was great. I mean, the fact that, and it's very emblematic of his time. I mean, in the 2000s, that was the comedy. Like that's the comedy that you got. That's the comedy that people wanted. That's what they gravitated towards. That's why there were so many of these movies. I think that this scene really encapsulates exactly what what drives people to like Rush Hour, which is the relationship between him and Jackie Chan, the relationship, film comedy, his banter, his wit, the way that he, always had something off the cuff remark that would make people, that would just, it makes people laugh. That's pretty much what it is. And then having like that fight, getting to see that physicality, and then going into a scene where he's talking to the master and he's trying to convince him to answer his questions, and you have that scene where the misunderstanding about the names. That's always been the comedy of Rush Hour. That's always been the comedy that I think people associate with Chris Tucker. And so I think when you think of the best scene, you got to think of the one that perfects it.
Time. Okay, we're gonna move over to Rue, who has 1 minute when he starts talking.
The encapsulation of the Rush Hour series actually happens at the end of Rush Hour 2 when Tucker is leaving him and keeps coming back every time Lee says Carter's name because he doesn't want to leave him, and then they go dance off into the airport going to NYC. That encapsulates their relationship. Again, that scene is a shell of himself, and it is proven because he's never gotten any comedies after that ever again. With my scene is the best scene in a Chris Tucker comedy because it gives you the comedy and the most quotable line that Chris Tucker that you expect, but then it gives you more than what you expect, more drama, more action, more powerful impact, all of that. And then you remember the movie is actually about a neighborhood pushing through adversity on a day-to-day basis because it's a day in the life, and the day in the life of South Central LA is a lot of hard shit that they got to deal with. So they put it into this bully, they knock out this bully, and then they cap it off with what every person in the hood does when they deal with some fucked up shit. They laugh. That's what it is. That's why it's the best.
Why it's the best. Strike it from the record. Okay, let's bring in the judges. Judges ready?
Yep.
Okay. I went with Rue. We talk about it a lot on this show. There are some categories that players can draft where they are so well versed in the category, even if their opponent does a good job, which I think Tyler did do the best job he could with the other options that were available. You can't beat the inward knowledge that Rue clearly has on all of these movies. I've never seen Friday, couldn't tell you shit about it, but also the dig about it's not the best Chris Tucker scene or Chris Tucker, it's the best scene in a Chris Tucker comedy. Yeah, he's right. So I think that worked and encapsulated it pretty well. So Brian, where are you voting?
Honestly, you said everything I was going to say. I also voted for Rue. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Rue has a real enthusiasm for the subject, a good knowledge of it. He's able to argue it very well. I do think that Tyler did probably the best he could do, but it's just, especially once he gets into the semantics of the question with Rue, and he's like, how you define the question. He took an angle on it that really, I think, kind of Tyler was on his back feet most of the debate.
All right, Mark, your vote doesn't count, but where would you have gone and why?
I would have gone with Amaru. Pretty much what you guys said. Amaru clearly had more knowledge on Chris Tucker than Tyler did, and I feel like Amaru also did a better job of actually debating the question.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get into the second question. Rue is up 1-0. The next question was drafted by Tyler. It is in the category of sci-fi icons. Your question: who should direct the next Terminator movie? Who should direct the next Terminator movie? Tyler, you're going to kick this one off. You got 1 minute when you start talking.
So when I think about Terminator, I always think about, obviously like peak of sci-fi. And I also always think about the cat and mouse game, the infiltrator, who's real, who's not kind of angle. So when I was trying to think about where the next Terminator movie needs to go, the only person I could think of that could helm it, that hasn't already obviously helmed it, is Alex Garland, the man that's behind Annihilation and Ex Machina. I think that with his sense of style and direction, and his previous work shows that he really knows how to work with AI. He knows how to work with machines. He knows how to create kind of the idea of, should we trust other people? Should we trust what we're seeing? Should we not? Should we even trust ourselves? Which I think is something that Terminator movie really excels at. The best form of Terminator has always been something that is, we don't know who the good guys are. We don't know who the bad guys are. And so I think he could do that in direction. Yeah.
Okay. Let's move over to Rue, who has 1 minute to open his argument when he starts talking.
When I think of recent legacy sequels that actually have done really well, it's the ones that reach back to the essence of what made those films good and made something new. Your Top Gun Mavericks, your Ghostbusters Afterlife, for me, the Bad Boys for Life. So when I think of the Terminator franchise, I think of a franchise that has some horror elements, that is a huge sci-fi world that deals with artificial intelligence, Tyler said it, has that cat and mouse game, has that monster chasing the victims. But the big thing about it is two. One, the ones that work well are extremely, extremely intimate. And second, action is at the core of Terminator. It is an action film that is in a sci-fi world with horror themes and with horror tones and makes you think about those themes of AI. But it's rooted in action with all of those themes weaved well in it. And the person who has done that so well is Lee Wanell. Invisible Man, Upgrade, he fits perfectly.
Perfectly. Strike it from the record. Okay. So, Lee Wanell going up against Alex Garland. You guys have 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
So I think we've chosen two directors that are really very similar in the ideas. The only thing that worries me about Lee Wanell is you talked about the action. All of the Terminator sequels that have been very lackluster, a lot of that is the fact that it focuses too much on action. I think that we need to get a little bit more back to the idea of, okay, we're in a world where these people, they don't know what a Terminator is. They don't know who's a Terminator. Like I said before, like the cat mouse game, you don't know who to trust. The T-1000, that kind of era. I think we need to see an extension of that. We need to see, almost like when I imagine it, I always think of like a Truman Show-esque thing where nothing around you can be trusted. Everything is fake. You don't even know like if you can trust yourself, like an ex machina. And I think that Alex Garland has just done a great job of not being able to, or making the audience really not doubt what they're seeing, what they're believing, what exactly does it all mean around them, who's a machine, who can they trust, who's on their side. And I think that is the cornerstone of the Terminator franchise. So I believe that's why he would be able to push forward the Terminator franchise into the future.
T2 is argued as being one of the best Terminator movies, and it is action-packed. Action upon action upon action. So I don't know where that not action is coming from, because it also was intimate at the same time. You want to talk about not knowing who to trust? If you've seen Upgrade, you know STEM at the end of the film is not trustworthy, and you've been following STEM with Logan Marshall Green's character the entire time. That is the epitome of that twist, being like, oh shit, the thing I've been with, I don't know if I didn't know I couldn't trust it. So he's shown he can do that. He's shown he can do the cat and mouse game with the Invisible Man, the character that can pop up at any time and is extremely menacing and extremely horrifying. So let me go back to the fact that T2 is action-packed. It is the best one. And Lee Wanell has shown that he can do that action while still making it intimate, while still fitting it in a world around AI and not knowing who to trust and having a small one person fighting to survive against some type of big entity. What Alex Garland does is cerebral. Alex Garland makes you think. Alex Garland makes you ponder. He focuses on the psychological thriller, and that is not Terminator. Terminator doesn't go make you think. It makes you maybe have the themes, but it doesn't make you go, ooh, what am I thinking about AI? No, you know what does? You know what Alex Garland should do? He should do Blade Runner. That would be perfect for him, because that's the sci-fi world he'll thrive in. Let him do that, he'll fly. Let Lee Wanell do his action and his sci-fi and his horror in Terminator, and he will soar.
Okay, so first of all, I didn't say that no action. I know that Terminator has a lot of action. T2 has a lot of action. I'm saying that they went too far into the action. There needs to be some sort of that balance of, there needs to be action, but there also needs to be uncertainty. Not knowing what's around you, not trusting anything around you. And that's why Alex Garland, I mean, you can go out and you can get, stunt coordinators and everybody that can create awesome action scenes, cinematographer. What you really need is somebody that's able to really get the audience to buy into the idea of they don't know what's going on. With Upgrade, I mean, yeah, the twist was good at the end that it turned out, oh, hey, he was the one that was behind it all. But we're not looking for, a buddy cop where it's Skynet and, some random guy who's going around. We're looking for, hey, everybody around me isn't who I think it is. What's going on? Am I even the person that I think that I am? And that's always been what Alex Garland's been able to bring to the table. He's done that in Annihilation. He's done that with Ex Machina. In Annihilation, there was action. There was, the environment, the creatures that attacked, everything with that. There was action in it. It wasn't just a think piece the entire time. The idea of, he already has shown that he knows how to do the darker side of us with Annihilation and the Doppelganger. That's perfect for Terminator. The Doppelganger was like seeing the T-1000, but in the late 2000s. Or late 2010s. He's able to bring something this franchise that sorely needs, because it needs to grow.
Exactly. It needs to grow. So you're talking about the Doppelganger being the T-1000. I mentioned earlier that you need these legacy sequels to have the basis of what's going on when it was successful, but you need something new. We don't necessarily need another T-1000. We need some original thought that has the themes, that has the action, that has the essence. And that is exactly what Leigh Whannell did in Upgrade. His first movie that delves into that area. If you just switched around a little bit of how he got injured and all those different things, you could put Terminator in there and they could say, wait a second, is STEM a part of Terminator now? You can do all these things where Alex Garland can't do what a Terminator is.
Do what a Terminator is. Strike it from the record. Rue, please. My God. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so Rue, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
You want uncertainty? Invisible Man is nothing but uncertainty. You don't know where this guy is. You don't know where that cat and mouse is. Upgrade, and it's nothing but uncertainty. Logan Marshall Green is trying to figure out what is happening to him, how is STEM controlling him, and it trusts this thing that is making him survive, and then he gets outplayed by it. That is the essence of uncertainty. And he can direct the shit out of an action franchise, which is what Terminator needs to do. Alex Garland can hire all of the fight choreographers and anybody that he wants. But what he wants to do is make you sit, ponder, and think. He makes you want to go inside existential humanity and ask questions about IA at the forefront. That is not what Terminator is. That is not where we want Terminator to go. We don't want Terminator to become boring. We want it to stay action-packed, but still make you think a little bit. But it has to hit. It has to be scary. It has to have that count and mouse chase. Put Alex Garland in Blade Runner, because that is where he's going to do what he does most. Put Leigh Whannell in this because he's shown he can do it.
All right, let's move over to Tyler. Tyler, 1 minute when you start talking.
Look, Terminator franchise needs a makeover, it needs a facelift. You can put in as much action as you want. You're going to get lackluster sequels like you have in the past. It's not so much, there will always be action in Terminator. That's not something that I'm saying that it doesn't have. I'm saying that there's other people that you can bring in the action. It doesn't have to be something that you are the exact person thinking about. What I want Alex Garland to do is to be able to really look into the idea of Skynet, to be looking at the idea of everyone around me, I don't really know who they are. Imagine being one person in a sea of faces that you don't see, that you don't understand, that don't make sense, because they all are the enemy, but you don't know they're the enemy. He can do that. That's something that he's shown that he can do in his previous films, and is 100% what the Terminator franchise can be, what needs to be, because it's always been about going around and trying to survive. And his prior movies have shown that he cares the most about survival.
Survival. Strike it from the record. My God, you gentlemen. No, I'm just fucking with you guys. Ever since I heard Nazario do that once in a debate on the video store, that's my favorite thing to do, is just go like, strike it from the record. Okay. Okay. Mark, you get to go first. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, this one was pretty close for me, and I think I'm gonna give the slight edge to Tyler. I think at the end that you both pitched really interesting choices, honestly, for a franchise that I think is destined to be pretty bad forever. But I think Tyler, I think he pitched like I think a more interesting idea for a Terminator sequel in the sense of kind of the more psychological angle, and I think he did a decent job of hitting back on Rue whenever like Rue kept hitting him with like you don't want action in the movie or not. So I'm gonna lean towards Tyler on this one.
Am I the only one that liked Dark Fate?
I love Dark Fate.
Dark Fate.
I think Dark Fate's pretty good, but everyone's like, "Oh, the Terminator franchise is dead." I'm like, it was a good movie. I also went with Tie Guy. I thought that both were good pitches, and Maggie was making fun of me because I was sitting there going, "Ooh, good choices." She's like, "You knew the choices." I'm like, "Yeah, I forgot." But both great picks, and I like both the directors, and I think both would be interesting movies. I think both, like Mark said, both pitches they gave were good. But I think Tyler was able to just like kind of hit Rue's a little bit harder. Rue was kind of just kept going back to the like Garland should do Blade Runner, which that would also be dope. But it's just like you should do that and like action. But like I thought Rue contradicted himself a couple times. If I'm being completely honest, he was like, "It needs to change, but it needs to be what it was," and I was like, "That doesn't make any sense." So I don't know. I went with Tyler overall. It was close though. Brian, where are you going? You look like you have a Cody look like we're dumb.
Oh, this is the look I always give you, Tim.
Oh, okay, good.
No, yeah, but these director questions like this, it's about who should direct, but really it turns into a pitch question,
Mhm.
right? Because you're pitching kind of the movie that you see that person making. And while both of them seem interesting, I also went with Tyler.
Nice.
I think that he just did a good job of he talked about how with Rue, he's like, yeah, they've tried to stick to that Terminator 2 kind of formula and do it with the actions like that, and we've got these lackluster sequels. His words, not mine, just saying. But with his, it's like it needs to evolve, needs something new. And as a viewer, I would actually like to see them try something new with it, go with something more. It still has the action, as Tyler said, but it's going to be more cerebral. It kind of get us to something new. It needs to grow. The whole idea of the paranoia around you is kind of the same world, the same story, but a different tone to it. And I like that. I like the picture you painted of that.
Yeah. All right. So we could not be more tied. 2 clean sweeps to different people. So it's 1-1. We are going to move on to the next question, which was drafted by Rue. It's in the category of the Wizarding World. The question is, what is the worst Wizarding World action scene? So Rue, you get to kick this one off. You got 1 minute when you start talking.
The third task in the Goblet of Fire is absolutely the worst action scene on 2 fronts. One, it is absolutely boring. The bushes close, and then it's walking, bush, wind, point. Close up of Cedric, trying to get past more bushes, more wind, more bushes. 2 spells, more bushes. Nothing happens in this scene whatsoever. But more than that, what makes it even worse is that it's disappointing. It is the third task of the Tri-Wizard tournament, which is supposed to be each task is more harrowing than the last. You got the dragon scene that was action-packed. You got the intense underwater scene. And then you got this that is not harrowing, has no stakes, doesn't feel threatening at all, doesn't give anything to do for any of their characters. The second it does, it pulls it away. Not only is this scene boring, but it is a disappointment in an action scene that could have been the best of the entire movie before the ultimate climax. It's horrible.
It's horrible. Straight for the record. Okay, so Tyler, we're going to move over to you. So you have 1 minute when you start talking.
So when I think about the worst action scene in the Wizarding World movie, always my mind goes straight to the end of Crimes of Grindelwald in the crypt with Grindelwald, blue flame of death, and also Lita sacrificing herself. For me, that's always going to be the worst because, like we were talking about with this, it was disappointing. We get Lita, this character that they've been building up for a couple movies now as this person that was going to make a bigger change on the franchise, trying to sacrifice herself for, I don't know, the 2 brothers that she loves, one of them, I don't know, so that they can get away, and then immediately dies and there's no weight to it. There's no nothing to it. The whole idea of like this blue flame, blue ring of death of flames was cool, and then they ruined it by just having the flames lash out, and then seeing like the most egregious amount of plot armor of literally Aurors being burned alive, and then the main characters just block.
Time. All right. So Crimes of Grindelwald, Goblet of Fire, 5-minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
The biggest mistake you made with choosing this scene is you said there's no emotional stakes. It actually probably has some of the biggest emotional stakes in the entire franchise, because it actually starts with Queenie leaving Jacob. The best part of the entire Fantastic Beasts is their relationship, and you feel that weight. And when you put weight into an action scene, it makes everything better. They choose to make it slow, but they make it more tense because you feel what they're feeling. And then they double the impact with Lita dying. Her ending words are to the two brothers saying, "I love you." And you're like, wait, who are they saying that to? You feel that loss. You feel Jacob's loss, then you feel their loss. So now everything they do afterwards is more intense, has more impact. And you talked about the blue flames flame out. They don't. You feel for them. So when they get outside, it actually feels like the flames are threatening, because it actually does something cool. It turns into this dragon that keeps fighting their Finite charm over and over. And you're like, oh shit, maybe that this thing will actually flame out Paris. It may not be the best, but it is not the worst, because it actually has weight. It actually does something cool, whereas the third task does nothing cool. It is repetitive. It is boring. It doesn't give anybody anything to do, and it is absolutely disappointing. There's more excitement in chasing the snitch than there is in Cedric and Harry chasing after the Triwizard Cup.
I mean, with the Crimes of Grindelwald, I don't know. For me, it will always be, Queenie's gone. That's emotional. And then it feels immediately cheapened by Lita sacrificing herself. You can't try to do the same emotional payoff with two different characters at the same time. One that you've spent time with, and then one that you haven't barely spent any time with, and expect one of them to be more important when it's about the character that we don't care that much about. I think that really takes away from Queenie's choice. I think if it had just been that, it could have definitely elevated the scene a lot, like you said it would. As far as like the blue dragon, it looked really cool. I'm sure it was really expensive, but at the end of the day, it just never it felt bad for the people who didn't have names. But whenever you could easily just block it, and they had they immediately knew how to take care of it once Nicholas Flamel showed up. It just felt like it was, I mean, even in a world of magic, it felt like a leap. For the third task, I know you say that there's not a lot of action, but I think that this scene has a lot more action than you think it does. I just don't think that it's in the most overt way that you've seen. It's definitely going to be, it's very tense. It's cat and mouse. It's like I said, you're in these close quarters. It's very intimate. You get to see like these fears. You see people getting taken over. Seeing people's true sides. It's very tense. It makes you scared. It makes you really scared for the characters. And then
let's move on to Rue.
Okay, so you said it's not the same because we don't spend time with her. We just spent a 5 to 6 minute monologue with Lita about her backstory and her life before she dies. So and there's a difference between her Queenie going through, because you're wondering, is she gonna die? Is she not gonna die? And Queenie goes through. So when Lita goes, you're like, wait a second. What is she doing? Is she turning? Is she sacrificing? What does she do? She then sacrifices herself. At least there is some emotional impact. I didn't say there isn't a lot of action in the third test. I'm saying it's uneventful action. It's action that does nothing. You want to talk about it takes over people's fear? You don't see that. You don't see Harry turning. You don't see Cedric turning. What you do see of Crumb is 2 seconds of him turning with his eyes. You see a horror scene of Floor running, but you see her for about 10 seconds in a 4-minute scene, and it is absolutely disappointing because it's supposed to be the climax. What you want that scene to do is make it feel like Harry is really going to leave Cedric behind. You think Cedric is really going to turn on him. And none of that happens because there's no stakes leading up to that. You talk about the blue flame, they're just blocking. These vines you can cut with a wand. That's it. It's boring, it's disappointing, and has no weight. Well, at least yours has the weight that makes everything feel threatening and tense afterwards.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of stakes in the Triwizard Cup. Obviously, with the third task, Intimate is just about the champions and what they're going through. That moment, I mean, when Cedric looks like Harry's going to leave behind Cedric, I felt a lot of emotion from that. I felt like even though I knew what was going to happen, I still was worried. Like, is he going to turn into, is he going to turn bad? Is he going to let this cup change who he is? There's a lot of stakes in this Triwizard Cup third task that we can feel, and it doesn't always have to be about just like the action. It always has to be about how does it make you feel, how, like, what are you feeling in the moment.
Okay, Tyler, you get to close first on this one. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
With the end of Crimes of Grindelwald, it feels like they just kind of wanted to throw some stuff at the wall. Yes, Queenie going through the flame, very intense. Immediately undercut by the idea of Lita sacrificing herself, not to potentially save the people that she's trying to help, but it ultimately leads to nothing. She immediately gets defeated. That doesn't help the brothers at all. Really, like, they were just in the same exact predicament that they were 2 minutes ago, but unfortunately they're down a fiance. The Blue Flame, I mean, like I said, it looked good, but it never really felt like it was uncontrollable. The third task, it just because it's a different kind of action than what we're used to. It's about tense. It's about not knowing who to trust. It's about, being intimate, like in these intimate close quarters, seeing who people really are, seeing Crumb being taken over, and trying to kill people, Flair almost dying, Cedric almost being left behind in the maze.
Time. Okay. We're going to move over to Rue, who has 1 minute to close when he starts talking.
If all of those so-called impactful scenes in the third task were after Harry had to face the dragon, or maybe had to figure out who to save in the lake, then you might think, oh, this Triwizard Cup is actually changing him. But no, you don't feel it, because you're waiting for something to actually happen that is supposed to be more harrowing than the previous two, and nothing does. It's only 2 out of the 4 champions that actually turn or have to face something, and we barely get to see them do that. That tenseness was not felt, because it felt in the second one. In this one, it feels like the first enchantment in Philosopher's Stone before getting to the more harrowing things that all the other teachers did. In Crimes of Grindelwald, you get the emotional impact of Queenie, and then you get the emotional impact of Lita, because she's not just defeated, she sacrifices herself by telling them, I love you, so you feel that. And that dragon that continuously breaks out again and again from the flames, at that point, because you feel to them, you feel like, man, they really need to finish this off. They really need to do that, or Paris is going to burn. Better emotional impact helps with better than nothing.
Speaks for itself, Rue, on that one. No, so all right, we're gonna bring in the judges.
That was stricken, right?
From the record, yes.
Okay.
Stricken.
All right.
And that's his third strike, so he's disqualified now, right?
No. Brian. Well, Mark, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, Brian, you kick it off.
Well, of course, you start with me on the Wizarding World question. You know what
Yeah.
a fan I am.
Yeah, of course.
No, yeah, this is actually a much closer debate. I thought it was very well done. I think both of them did a better job of arguing for why theirs is the worst than they did like trying to shoot down the other person's pick. I did end up going with the Rue. I think that from his very opening, I think he painted a really good picture of why it was such a bad scene. It was boring and it was disappointing, but also the fact that it was supposed to be these escalating challenges, and this one was just like a big step down from the previous ones. How there were no stakes, how there was no threats, which just made it as a action scene, it was just really kind of nothing.
All right. Mark.
Yep. Also have Amaru. I mean, yeah, like the first thing I wrote down, he said was bushes, and I feel like that's kind of where the fight went from there on. Like, just did a good job explaining it's a bad scene. Then he did a good job of knocking down Tyler's scene, or at the very least that there was at least some good stuff, more good stuff in Tyler's scene than was in his. So.
Yeah, my vote doesn't count. It makes me sad that I'm voting I guess technically against the Goblet of Fire versus the Crimes of Grindelwald, but I also went with Amaru because Crimes of Grindelwald is booty. But yeah, I mean, I agree with what the other judges have said. I think Tyler did a good job. He actually had me on a lot of his Crimes of Grindelwald points. I think Brian's correct. They did a better job explaining why their scene sucks so bad. But I think Rue did more to explain why the Crimes of Grindelwald scene actually might not be that bad versus Tyler explaining why the Goblet of Fire scene works more. But there was actually some shit that Tyler said that I was like, I never thought about that. Like how the people are just like, oh, they get destroyed. And then Newt and Theseus are like, ha, we can get through it. Ha ha. Like, oh, fuck that movie. Anyway, so that's another clean sweep for Rue. So here's the situation. Tyler does need to hit this next one in order to tie it up and send it to speed round. If Rue hits this one, he will win. So the question was drafted by Tyler in the category of action adventure. The question is, who is the coolest character other than Indiana Jones in an Indiana Jones film? So, Tyler, you get to kick this off. You got 1 minute when you start talking.
When I think about the person that is the coolest in an Indiana Jones film, it's not Indy. I have to think about the person that raised him, Henry Jones Sr. I mean, obviously, not only is it the fact that Sean Connery is one of the coolest people alive. Well, was at the time. But it also is just the way that he plays the character, the way he plays against Indy, the way that he is still, even though they're very similar character-wise, as far as like their interests and everything, because of their lives with archaeology and everything. He felt different enough in a way from Indy, and how he uses knowledge, how he was able to do these things that may have looked a little goofy on the surface, but they were actually really helpful in the film to be able to save, Indy's life, Marcus's life, everybody's life, pretty much. I think that he was able to really just show, just show what you can do as an archaeologist, especially getting out of the, because we think about like the roguish type, but this is more of the academic type, and yet he was still pretty cool.
Time. Okay. All right. We're going to bring in Rue. 1 minute when you start talking.
Just checking. I got my headphones off. Can y'all still hear me all right? I want to make sure there's no... Cool.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can't think of a cooler introduction than out drinking somebody 3 times your size in your own bar in a foreign country, then speaking at foreign language. And then when Indy comes in, you put him into place by punching him in the face for all the bullshit he's done to you, then kick him out. And then one of the main villains of the movie comes in and threatens you, and you blow smoke in their face. And then while they're burning down your bar, not only do you kill the last person to save Indy's life, but while the bullets are flying, a bullet hits a wine barrel, a stream of wine comes out, and before you decide to hit somebody over the head with a flaming log, you say, wait, let me drink out of this wine, and then hit him in the face. And then when all is said and done, continues to put Indy in his place saying, dude, you owe me $5,000, and now you have a partner. There is no cooler person than Marion Ravenwood in this entire franchise that's not named Indy, and I only talked about her introduction. Didn't even talk about the rest of the film or 4. She does more cool shit from her personality and what she does than anybody else in the franchise.
All right. 5-minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
I think it's great that you talked about Marion's opening. I think that is it was very cool. I think that it's probably the coolest thing about her. And after that, I think the rest of the time she's just a damsel in distress that constantly needs Indy's help. I don't know. She was really cool. She could drink, she had all that stuff. But when you start watching the rest of the films, you start noticing that she's always captured. She's always needing Indy's help. She's always yelling out. I think her favorite catchphrase is yelling Indy. She's for me, like someone that especially with all the different females that we've seen, I want to see someone that's going to be, like you said, a partner with Indy. I don't know how many partners are actually like, always away from the main character, who's always being captured and potentially giving help to the bad guys because of the fact that they're captured and giving them information. It's not really like that doesn't really speak as cool to me as like the beginning, like you said.
You call her a damsel in distress. I call her being limited by her physical limitations. She cannot help that she is 1/3 the size of everyone else. She wasn't asking for help when she fooled Belloc into thinking he was drunk and tried to get out. She wasn't asking for help in 4 when she's driving the car. Kate Blanchett hits her car and then she hits the brakes to throw her off. She wasn't asking for help when she saves everybody in 4 by driving off of the cliff onto a tree and then into the next waterfall to save their life. She wasn't asking for help when she was laughing after waterfall after waterfall after waterfall. She is not a damsel in distress. She is a tiny woman who's going to get captured. And then once she says, okay, my physical limitations, they're going to kill me. I'm going to outthink everybody. I'm going to outsmart everybody, including Indy. You said Henry, you wanted to pick the dude that raised him. Henry didn't raise him at all. He gave him his quote unquote privacy, as Henry said. This dude is an emotionally distant father that is borderline abusive, and that is his entire personality in the movie. It does not make him cool. When he figured out that they were sleeping with the same person, he said, "Oh, me and my son are ships passing in the night." You are talking about crossing swords with your son. That is not cool at all.
I mean, I think that every relationship is different with your parents. Yeah, maybe he distanced himself from Henry, and then we saw how he grew up, who Indiana Jones is, one of the coolest characters ever. I think that in that movie we see how much he really genuinely cares about Indy, and how much that he wishes that he can make amends, and how they start working towards that. You say how he was making jokes about him and Indy sleeping with the same woman. I mean, he sees Indy as an adult. He sees Indy as his own person. He doesn't see him so much as, oh, you're a child to me. He sees him as, oh, okay, you're a fellow man. And so I'm not going to make this into a big deal. I'm just gonna, just laugh at the ridiculous situation, and make a witty remark, but it's not gonna be something I'm gonna constantly dwell on.
You were talking about mistakes that people make. And people can make mistakes. What they can't do is make it their entire personality. And that's exactly what Henry is. Indy is the coolest character despite of his father. In that same conversation, he says things like, he continues to put him down. He continues to call him Junior when he doesn't want to. He said, you got cool. You left just when you were getting interesting to his own son. Every time he tries to have a relationship with his father, he puts him back down. And Indy ends up saying, you know what you taught me? You taught me that men who are dead for 500 years already in a foreign country was more important to me. He didn't make up with his son. He didn't make up with his son until he thought he was dead. He says, I've lost him, and I've told him nothing. He doesn't take that turn until he thinks Indy is dead, and that is not cool. Marion, on the other hand, is always the same person, always cool, always able to say, look, Indy, you're always saving me, but I'm always going to show you why I'm going to put you in your place. The conversation where he says, why do you always got to win every argument? And Marion says, why can't you keep up? Shows how cool she is, how confident she is. She is cooler than damn near every person in the room, while Henry is an emotionally distant father, and that's all he is.
I mean, with Marion, like I said, the character gets into a track. She has these moments where she tries. There's always those moments where you try to escape and whatnot. But at the end of the day, she's always being captured. I mean, when we first see her in 4, this is years later. She was captured. She has like these bits and pieces where you're like, oh, okay. But for the most part, there's a track she's on.
Time. Okay. So we are gonna start with Rue. You get to close this one first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
What is the first thing she does when we see she's captured in 4? She immediately gets into it with Mutt and Indy to show, look, again, I got captured because of my physical limitations, but I'm going to make sure I'm out thinking and out talking everybody around me to show that I am not a damsel in distress. I just keep getting captured. The epitome of Marion is that she does things that are cool. She says things that are cool. She is the coolest person to everybody around her. Salah would have been my pick if I didn't pick Marion. And there's a scene where when they're getting commanding ships, where she kisses him. This is for you. This is for wife. This is for your children. full on lips in front of the love of her life. The love of her life is just smiling at her because she knows she's cool, and Salah melts in her hands. She is cool in everything. Henry Sr. didn't raise him, didn't treat him as an adult afterwards, continues to tell him over and over again why you are nothing to me, then only changes when he says, I've lost him, I've taught him nothing because you left when you were just getting interesting, and I only figured that out after you're dead. He's not cool.
He's not cool. Strike it from the record. Rue, I love you, but come on. Okay. Tyler, you get 1 minute to close when you start talking.
You keep bringing up how he changed after he thought Indy was dead. Sometimes we need that catalyst. Sometimes we don't know what we have until it's gone. The way he is, it rubs Indy the wrong way, but it also helped Indy become the person that he is today. And he constantly pushes him. He challenges him. He keeps trying to teach him. Doesn't matter how old he is. He wants to teach him. He's always reminding him. He's like, hey, don't forget. And you talk about like if you talk about like Indy, Indy's, we love him because he's got these quests and everything. Henry devoted everything to the Holy Grail. That was his entire being. This was the only thing that mattered to him. He wanted to make sure that he was able to find this Holy Grail. He was able to make his mark, and he finally was able to. As far as like with, and we talk about like his parenting. I mean, Marion raised Mud. No, Mud is one of the most unlikable characters in the series. So we can't talk about parenting.
Time. That was a nice dig to throw it right at the end. That was fucking great. Oh man. Oh, I didn't even think about that. Holy shit. Oh, that was great. Okay. Oh my god. All right. I'm ready when you guys are.
I'm not ready yet.
Okay. Oh man. That made me laugh way too hard. Mark got a good laugh in there too, I saw.
Okay, I guess.
All right. I guess you say.
I guess. This is a hard one for me.
Yeah, well, you would. This would be hard for you. Okay. I'm going with Rue. I think that so I love Marion. She's my favorite part of Raiders. And I love Henry. He's my favorite part of Last Crusade. But I think Rue did a really great job of kind of painting Henry as a piece of shit. And so I don't know. It worked for me. I think that he did such a good job painting the picture of Marion as a great character, and all the jabs that Tyler had against Marion. I thought Rue was able to counteract pretty well, except for that one at the end that he couldn't respond to. But I went with Rue. Brian, where are you going?
Well, first of all, I was very confused. They kept referring to this fourth movie that doesn't exist, so I don't know what they're talking about here.
That's my bad. Sorry.
So all their arguments are completely moot. No, this one was tough for me. I think they both had really good arguments. I think that especially when Rue started going against Henry, talking about how he's a bad person and bad parenting, I didn't really take that in consideration because I'm like, that doesn't mean somebody can't be cool. I mean, they're villains who are really cool characters. It doesn't mean they're good people. So I don't really think of it like that. So that kind of didn't mean anything to me. But actually, I think I also gave my point to Rue. I think he won it on the defense because early on, I think that like in just like even like the very first part of the debate, I thought that Tyler did a good job of kind of attacking Marion, going, yes, she has a great intro as you described it, but she's this damsel in distress after that, and Rue is ready for that. He came right back into and goes, no, she did this, she did this, she did this, she did this. And then from then on, I think that honestly, while I didn't think his attacks on Henry were as good, I thought that his defense of his pick of Marion was very good.
All right, Mark, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
This one's really tough because I really like the other kid, but I went with Rue. Gotta be honest, Tyler, if you had mentioned that much, like a minute left, I probably would have had your name on the board because I think you probably a little bit more time with that one. We probably could have pulled that one out, but no. I mean, Rue hit Henry Jones Sr. with a ton of good points, and Tyler didn't have a lot of great answers for it. And that's kind of where the battle was for me.
All right. Well, that means your winner is Rue Moses. We're going to go into post-match interviews. We're going to start by talking to Tyler. Tyler, great job. You got a clean sweep on your point that you earned, and we all said a lot of these were close, like the points and the votes might not point to it, but a lot of us were struggling on these ones that went to Rue. So I think that's going up against somebody who's played for titles and stuff. This only being your third match ever, we have to keep in mind. I think that's impressive. How did you feel about the match?
First of all, I mean, Rue is awesome. I can see why he was in a title match. Like, he was definitely, it was intimidating. I think I felt good about some of our performances, not so good about some of the others. I kind of got stuck in a track when I chose some of these people, because like some of these choices, like with Chris Tucker, he totally got me with that. I've only seen the rush hours, I think, of Chris Tucker. Like, I don't, and so I was like, damn, what am I going to choose? So and then I saw like the Senior Friday, and I was like, there's no way I can spin this. I'm just gonna go out there and say some stuff. But no, I mean, obviously, like with Terminator 1, I felt really good about that one. Kind of trying to sell the vision, because I was trying to keep in mind, because I've seen that in the past where people just want to pitch their movies. So I was trying to keep in mind more about like the directing style, which I actually enjoyed, kind of like going more into that. And then doing like with the indie one, I should have interjected more, I think, during the 5 minutes. I realized near the end that I hadn't gotten to talk about as much as I would have liked to, so like I could throw out the stuff like with the mutt, and that's on me. I just need to be more comfortable just to put myself out there, not just wait for the next person to like graciously be like, here you go. So I definitely I think the indie one could have gone better. I also thought that Henry Jones Sr. was cooler in my mind before I rewatched the movie. So it made it harder for me to defend, because I was like, he's not as cool as I was just thinking Sean Connery. I wasn't thinking like the actual character. So that kind of shot me in the foot. So yeah. And then I didn't even think about the third task being an action scene, which I think speaks for itself on why that was be a good one as the worst action scene. So he chose a lot of really good ones. So just right out of the gate, I felt really like defensive, and like I needed to push myself, needed to work really hard. And then he just dominated. I mean, other than that Terminator one, I don't think I got a single point. So like from any three of you. So I think he just dominated. He's gonna do great in the tournament. I'm really excited to see, because I was really impressed by him today, honestly.
I think that's a good attitude to have, Tyler. And again, I think, sorry, I felt a sneeze come on. Woo! I think you did really well. I'm excited to see you come back when we do have you back, either later this year or early next season. But Tyler, congrats on a great match. Thank you for being part of the tournament. We're going to bring in today the winner. Rue, you won a match. You're now, hang on. You are now 5-3. And you got 3 clean sweeps today, which is pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. 3 clean sweeps in a match. How are you feeling about the matchup?
I feel really good about it. Tyler made me sweat. I'll be honest, I came into it thinking that there's a possibility we could go to the speed round, because I felt really confident about Chris Tucker, and I felt really confident about Indy. The Wizarding World one, I felt like I could win, but I knew we both picked really bad scenes. So it's like, damn, how am I going to try to like up the Crimes of Grindelwald? And at the end of that, I really didn't know which way y'all were going to go. I was like, Tyler did a really good job of really painting a picture of how bad that scene is in Crimes of Grindelwald. So I hope I just did a good enough job to put down the third task. The Terminator one was the one I always came into looking like, damn, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I love my pick. And I was really liking where I was going with trying to get Alex Garland into Blade Runner to go that way. But he just kept hitting me back with a lot of good rebuttals and why it would actually work. So at the end of that one, I was like, yeah, that's probably not when I'm winning. So I'm really happy I ended up with the win. Tyler, you did a great job, man. And really excited for what's next.
Yeah. And what's next is you're moving on to round 2 of the tournament. You're going to be playing the winner of Kaleb Boatman and Brooklyn Vale. That is who you're going to be playing. So who do you want out of there?
I'm going to go and say what I always say. I can beat both of them. I know that. But I think both of them will be really great matches. But I want both. That is going to be a loud, good time. And he's gonna bring some stuff out of me that I'm gonna be like, yeah, let's do this. I want to smack you down on some stuff here. So I'm really excited for either of them. But give me both. Let's do that one.
Awesome. I like it. Rue, we'll see you in round 2 of the tournament. Great job tonight. And let's get final thoughts, starting with Mark.
No, this was a pretty fun one. I had some neat questions and it's good answers, and that I feel like the very last moment of this fight just got a nice pop out of me. We can all agree, that Mud's awful.
Yeah, that's fair. Brian, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was a good debate, but I think Tyler has already recognized what I was thinking is one of the things he needs to work on, is that he is too nice. He is a little bit too timid. And I think what makes somebody like Rue so successful in debate is not just his content, which is obviously very good, but also, his style. He's enthusiastic, he's, animated, he's aggressive, he gets, in your face, puts you on the defense the whole time. And even just sounding so, upbeat about it, it makes him sound more knowledgeable, honestly. Whereas if you are too nice, if you're too timid, you kind of sound like you're, on the defense the whole time. And I think that, like I said, Tyler already recognized that about himself. I don't ever want to hear the term agree to disagree in a debate, because you're supposed to disagree. So don't ever say that again. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's a good thing, that he took a loss and he found something to learn from it, and he can use it in the future.
Yeah. Absolutely. So this has been a great episode of Fanzone Debate. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back in 2 weeks for another episode. We'll be back next week. Back-to-back weeks for the round 1 of the tournament. I forgot about that. We got the aforementioned number 5 seed Kaleb Boatman going up against the number 12 seed Brooklyn Vale. So we will see that next week, and we will see all of you very soon. Thank you to Rue and Tyler for playing. Thank you to Brian and Mark for being the judges on this one. We'll see you guys real soon with the next match. Until then, have a good one.
There we go. Thank you very much. Please come again. We have a lot more groceries.